Alright, time for another DraftPhysics.com video presentation. I guess we'll make this a YouTube video, update video of sorts, and just go through a couple of the videos I did this week, and talk about some other things and such. So, the last video yesterday was Puro, and an older video from whatever, 12 years ago or something. More than that even, very long time ago, and just brought up because somebody else antagonized me into doing it again, and not much value, no evidence involved, just the basic argument of their argument is they've proven everything, and the argument for anybody reasonable, in my opinion, is, well, why don't you just show me the proof then? And instead they play games with equations or some other mush, but they don't show you anything called proof or evidence or a demonstration. I did a few slit experiment videos, DraftScience versus draft physics versus photons. It just goes through the basic two-slit experiment and all the little regularities of the experiment that are not described by the conventional theory. So before that video were two videos playing Leonard Susskind, describing the experiment in such little detail, just demonstrating how they don't pay any attention to the actual experimental evidence. They just sort of make up their own little story to verify their own little story. So, it's all very circular, just like their gravity theory and the rest, blah blah blah. And then I had something about whatever, Brozo, so I might as well bring him up, in the sense that we've been waiting months for his air track experiment. So he built his own air track, is somehow proud of it, but doesn't use it to do any experiments. At least any that anybody can visually look at and examine. So we basically have zero experimental evidence from him of anything using the air track. And the air track is kind of fundamental to making to number one, debunking the only video I can find, Professor Lewin's free momentum experiment. So the only place where I found a free momentum experiment is Professor Lewin's, and Brozo says he's proving it's valid with evidence that's just too crappy for anyone to take seriously. So he hasn't actually redone the experiment in any clinical way that could be argued to have any integrity as scientific evidence. It might be evidence on the Bozo show, but or the Brozo show, but it isn't evidence in what would be considered the real world. If I produce such horrible evidence for my arguments, I would be rightfully ignored. Anyway, so we're waiting just basically for a couple of experiments. Now, another guy, positive from my side anyway, has brought up Toady UK. For some reason, he didn't see this comment I left to his comment, which is a little irritating, and he didn't see my email address, which is, it's on the YouTube video right below. It's right there. But anyway, so he has left a comment on the message board thing on the website, and kind of requesting that we can find this simple experiment that will finish this once and for all, and we can do this thing and get this over with, and blah blah blah. And I'm all for that, and that's sort of what we were expecting with Brozo's air track, but he won't use it. He won't use it because it doesn't produce results that he wants it to produce. That's the simple truth. So the reason in 2 months he hasn't done these simple experiments is because he doesn't want you to know the truth. Alright, so the two experiments are really simple. I mean, there's more than one. There's more than two. I mean, there's really is numerous experiments you can do to illustrate the point. But I mean, underneath all of this, okay, they're saying, so MV, if you really take it seriously, what it means is that energy equals weight. And I don't know if we've got a better symbol for weight than that, but that's the one I'm going to use. So, because it's all it really comes down to. Gravity is moving you. It's giving you a velocity all the time, and that's what you're registering on a scale. I mean, when you weigh yourself, okay, why are you moving the spring? Well, you're moving the spring because you actually have a velocity, and the Earth keeps pushing you back up. So, your energy is being imposed on you. You are pushing into the Earth, and the Earth is just pushing you back up. And so when you eliminate the Earth, or put a barrier between you and the Earth, so the Earth can't push you back up like a spring, the spring deflects till the Earth can catch up and push you back up again. So energy is weight. And so that's the easiest thing to say is, well, we just need to weigh things, right? So, and the 1/2 mv squared, okay, obviously isn't weight. So this is not weight. But anyway, so the simple experiments really just have to do with weighing things, and you just don't have to weigh them in gravity, right? Because gravity's kind of deceptive, because it does the silly 4 times the height for twice the velocity thing. Because gravity's a little tiny, minute force, and it fools us because you put 2 things in gravity and it looks like, well, the gravity must be affecting them the same. Well, it's really not, because the gravity's hitting them as if it was rain on their mass. Their mass decides how big they are. So even though a small thing can look small, but it can be really heavy, you can have a big thing that's light. Gravity knows, because gravity sees the atoms. Gravity sees the little tiny bits. But anyway, I've already made these arguments. So the simple experiment really is, the one that should finish the argument, right, is you just take a standard spring, and you take a 1 mass object, okay, and you send it in, and you have the same momentum of the 2 objects. And then you just take a 2 mass object, do the same thing, just crash it in. All right, and what you should be able to see is if they have different amounts of energy. So if I have a 1 mass object going 1/2 the velocity and a 2 mass object going 1 velocity, other way around, right? Yeah. 1 velocity, and this is a 2 velocity, and a 1/2. Okay. I have the same momentum, all right, and the argument is they'll compress the spring exactly the same. The kinetic energy formula says this 1 mass object going twice as fast has twice as much energy. That's what their theory says. So you'd think this is the easiest way. Just weigh them. Just see how much energy they really have. And if they compress the spring exactly the same amount, and vice versa. If you compress a spring a standard amount, you push it back a standard amount, and you shoot both objects with the same spring compression, the fact is it'll send this one away twice as fast as this one. And that should be enough of a proof, right? We should be done. And then you have the more complex example, the Professor Lewin experiment, where you take a 1 mass object, crash it into a 2 mass object, all right, and have them what is supposed to be elastically act, but even if you put a spring on it. And Professor Lewin actually accomplished the task of, say, if this one had a 100 momentum, he says this one came out of here with 130 this way, and yeah, it had 30 going this way. All right, because he says 2/3 of the velocity is retained by the 2 mass object. So he performed the experiment, he got those results, but what I would argue is there's a blob of clay on this cart, which obviously made it heavier, so it was more like this cart was 370. I mean, it was more weight, more momentum than it should have been, than he was deceiving us into thinking it was. And that's the only way you got 2/3 of the velocity, is because you had more than 2/3 of the mass. Anyway, so you get this, this idea of 165. So you have an experiment where 100 goes in, and you end up with 165 total going out, and it breaks the whole vector scalar nonsense where they say one of these things, this is a scalar, some kind of special scalar energy, and this mv is some sort of vector energy. It's and it just doesn't make any sense. It's a train moving down a track. How can it have vector energy and scalar energy? baby talk. It's mush. But anyway, that's the simple experiment, right? I mean, I've already pointed out how levers already point out how the whole thing's a fraud, right? Because we already know that you put the 2-mass object here, close to the fulcrum, put the 1-mass object out here, and that pendulum will oscillate just fine. Even though the argument is this 1-mass object here going twice as high, going twice as fast, somehow has twice as much energy. It makes absolutely no sense that the thing could oscillate for a half an hour if this side has twice as much energy. You know, twice as much energy in, only half as much energy up. Then how does it go back down again with half as much energy and create the free energy going back up again? Impossible, silly, nonsense. I mean, anybody reasonable right there, they should have some sort of concern. Well, yeah, maybe this nonsense is that nonsense, because that's a pretty compelling argument. You know, and I can lopside the pendulum even more and put a half mass over here and get 4 times the energy. This will go for 4 times the oscillation, 4 times the velocity. It makes no sense. I mean, shouldn't even have to argue this anymore. So that's part of the comment is that, yes, it does seem quite strange that no one's brought this up in all this time. You know, all these scientists looking at this crap, and somehow they haven't been able to figure out this doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, it's dismal. Shockingly dismal prospect. But then, you know, he sort of says he doesn't want to argue these other subjects, but my argument to you would be, it's going to be clear that all the other subjects, this isn't an aberration. Kinetic energy isn't physics gone wrong. That's their standard model of physics. They've done all of it wrong. They've done all of it badly. They haven't had a single question posed to them where they behaved like rational scientists and took their time and examined the evidence and were careful. There's no caution, there's no care taken. It's 5-6 people make the decision, and those 5 or 6 people are totally disconnected from reality. You know, you can almost argue that Bohr and Einstein and Born and a couple other people, they all decided what physics is. You know, nobody else got in on the conversation. And everybody else just follows along like little, you know, dupes. But this is the model. I mean, it's just terrible physics, okay? Bent space, dark matter, entanglement. All these things have huge problems. I mean, the Eddington experiment not being repeated. They've never proven gravity bends light. They've never proven it. The evidence sucks. And they don't care. And that should bother everyone. Okay, everyone who's reasonable and likes logic and facts, that should bother them. But instead of bothering them, they'll harass me. Yeah, they'll attack me. They'll threaten. I actually get threats, you know, from these Looney Tunes. You know, I mean, for what? To defend what? Wormholes? I mean, you know, man, it's just so bad. So even, you know, I could bring up D. Hilster. I mean, D. Hilster made another video this week, you know, where he's just griping about the fact that organizations devoted to this process of being dissident don't work. And, you know, as I told him, whatever, 4 years ago or 5 years ago, it's because you're all arguing your own little theories instead of tearing down the one that exists. So instead of pointing out how their process is broken, not only that their conclusions are wrong, but just that their scientific process is less than, and has something, doesn't have much integrity. And that's what they should all be focused on, is proving Einstein wrong. You know, instead of pretending they argued Einstein wrong. I mean, D. Hilster made a movie, Einstein Wrong, and there really wasn't any evidence that Einstein was wrong in the movie, which was sort of bogus. But yeah, that's what they ought to work on. And here, with kinetic energy, they have a perfect example of conventional science making shit up. It's, you know, religiously oriented and motivated. It was motivated, it created by a religious kook. Clearly, people sympathetic to that religious perspective are the ones that saved it. You know, this little, you know, Damien Satan baby, and they, you know, shoved it into the future. And it's just a monstrosity. It's such a pile of crap. It's so obviously crappy. All right. But yeah, so that's got to be the focus, is first just tear down the conventional crap and then explain how, well, then we have to do some real science to try to figure out what the thing actually is, and we actually have to pay attention to the real evidence instead of jumping to conclusions. And try to do all that verifying thing, and trying to do the experiment different ways, with atmosphere, without atmosphere, magnets, not magnets, all of that kind of crap to make sure you're getting right answers for the right reasons, drawing right conclusions. But they don't do any of that, and that's what it has to be. That's the change that has to take place, and then your dissonancy has some sort of chance. But it's not going to have any chance when all the money's devoted to, making silly gravitational wave detectors and other kinds of horse shit. Poorly reasoned nonsense. All right. So what else do I have to say? So anyway, so I will email Toad Guy, and I'll see what goes on. I mean, I don't really want to write a whole bunch of physics, but we'll see how it goes. I'd rather just argue it. But anyway, let's see if there's anything else. Well, I'll see. I'll pause. The reasonable thing. I'll pause and look around inside my head and see if I find anything else I need to say. So it is disappointing, okay? I mean, the Brozo says he's proven things. He doesn't show us any proof. Said he has old videos where he already did the proof. He won't, oh yeah, it'll be up in a few hours. 7 days later, still no video. Says he's got 3 videos already. Just has to, whatever he's going to do to them. Photoshop, editing, whatever, music, some other horse shit. 7 days later, no videos. I mean, it's just such bullshit. Horrible bullshit. I mean, he's proven that you can only throw a half as light baseball 0.28 as far. That kind of. I mean, it's just silly things. But what else? There was something else I wanted to get to. All right, well, I'll pause and think about it. Yeah, back. I did think there is another experiment you can do. I won't bother writing it, but on the air track, you put a rubber band between the 2 cars. So you have the 2-mass car and the 1-mass car, and you just pull them apart. That's all you do, and then let them go. And then you put more weight, or maybe, you see, that's the whole problem. It's because the air track doesn't work very well when you're adding weight. So I guess you really can't do it on an air track. Yeah, I didn't think of that. So it really has to be done with the little wheelie carts or some other kind of thing that can take, changes in weight. But the idea is to keep increasing the weight on one side, and you'll find that the other side always has the same momentum, and that this side always has the same momentum. It just moves slower and slower and slower. Yeah, that's the way it works. There's no extra energy. There's just momentum. There's no sign of any extra energy anywhere, and no sign that the energy got destroyed anywhere. So we're all the way back to the physics girl argument, again with the, you just drop the weight on the 5-pound car, and you drop 5 pounds on the 5-pound car going some velocity, and obviously the the momentum stays the same. All you do is cut the velocity in half. It's a proven experiment. There's no rational excuse to say it has half as much energy when it clearly doesn't have half as much energy. It weighs twice as much and it's going half as fast. It's just as much capable of knocking a boulder over or doing some other thing. I did see some videos, they have these stupid slow motion videos, and they're all joke videos. Instead of doing any real science with these slow motion cameras, they just do all this fucking cartoon physics. Drop it on a car, drop it on, do all this stuff. So they have a 4-ton, wrecking ball, and they drop it on cars. And you're just saying, well, why would they use a 4-ton wrecking ball when if they used a 2-ton wrecking ball, they have twice as much energy? Because they can swing it faster. It's just logical. So, why wouldn't they go with the faster, lighter? Because it has twice as much energy. Twice the same amount of energy in will produce, twice as much energy out. So why don't they do that? Obviously. Because it doesn't work, that's why. It doesn't have twice as much energy. That's why the wrecking ball is a big, giant thing. Okay, what else? but yeah, there's all those examples. So example. The spaceship one is just such a giveaway. If you have any understanding of how space works, you've got to know that there's this whole idea that you're going to shoot a bullet out this side and it's going to be 2,000 joules of energy, and the 2-liter bottle out this side going 1 mile an hour, and it's only going to be 1 joule of energy, or 2 to 2,000. You know, same energy to move those two objects, but somehow to create the event, and yet somehow you have 2,000 times more energy in space going one way. And then you say there's no Newton's third law, right? Because how could you possibly have 2,000 joules one way and only 2 joules go the other way, and say Newton was making any sense when he talked about equal reactions? But we know the spaceship will go straight, okay? Because there isn't 2,000, there isn't a 1,000 times more energy going the other way. It's just an illusion. It's just what we see. It's not the facts. It's not the whole story. Yeah. And what else is there to say? I mean, it's kind of like, okay, when you put a basketball and you put a tennis ball on top, and then you put a golf ball on top of that, and you drop it, and the golf ball goes, 56 feet up, or whatever it is. And you realize that, yes, because you took all the energy out of the 2 bigger balls, you took all their energy and gave it to the golf ball. So, yeah, it looks like something. It's impressive. It looks like more energy. But it's not really more energy than if all 3 of them had just bounced, 6 feet off the ground or whatever, 3 feet. It's the same energy. It's just that you used it all up. They didn't bounce back up. The basketball stayed very low. It just goes a little bit, the other balls don't bounce. So you took all their energy, instead of letting them go bounce, 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 to lose all their energy. You took it all away right in the beginning and gave it to the golf ball. Are you going to argue that by velocity, you have to argue that the golf ball has, again, 50, 60, 70, 80 times more energy than the total energy of the 3 balls you dropped? So you drop 3 things with a total energy of 5, and you get out 50? Come on. You can, that's free energy. How can you keep talking about kinetic energy like it's real? Because there's all kinds of places it's free. Like I said, I just step on the lever, and I put a lighter and lighter thing further and further away on the other side of the lever, and I just keep making more energy. How could that be true? And we live in this universe? The world is run this way? Oil is whatever, it's going to be anyway. Whatever, $150 a barrel, and you're telling me this story about how, free energy was always right here in front of us. Come on. Yeah, it's really just too silly a conversation. And the only reason why it happens is because they're all religious nuts. Look at the emphatic, insane, inability to accept the reality, to argue the real point, that how the hell don't we already have free energy? Because levers make free energy. They make free kinetic energy. You drop a heavy thing on one side of the lever, you launch a light thing on the other side of the lever, and you have free kinetic energy. You put less energy in than you're going to get out. It's a fact. Now, how do you reconcile? How do you reconcile that with reality? Can't be done. Can't be done by an honest thinking person. So they're all just fanatics defending, the fanatic club. They're all just part of a gang, and they don't care if their color sucks. You point out how, puce, that's a disgusting color. Why did you choose that? That's terrible. And they don't care. They just keep saying, fuck you, it's puce, we like it. Even though they don't like it. Even though it's not logical, it doesn't make any sense. They don't care because they're so dependent on all the other wooey crap they're saying, and they just need all that crap to be true. So if you threaten one part of them, if you show one piece of corruption, right? If you show a guy lying about one thing, you can't trust him on anything else. And that's what they're deathly afraid of, is everything else is now going to be inspected once you have to concede that, yeah, they fucked this one up big time. And it is a big fuck up. I mean, it's glaringly huge error right in the middle of their physics. Right between quantum mechanics and relativity is kinetic energy. And it's a steaming pile of crap. Shit. Yeah, I'm just amazed that I have to keep doing this. I mean, when I started this, right, I had so little ammunition. And now I got so many bullets, I don't even know what to do with them. But they don't work on you morons. You're like those fucking zombies. You know, you gotta stick a wooden stake in your eye or something. You can't just shoot them. You just can't hit them with logic. It doesn't work. They're freaking zombies. Alright. So, anyway. That's probably enough. I really don't... I can't conceive that there's anything else necessary. No, hell with it. It's just all very discouraging. I must say, quite discouraging. This is not the script I imagine I would be reading at this point in my life. But tough shit. That's where I am, so okay, it's a horror movie. Okay, it's just I'll have to make the best of it. Till the next time, and such and so forth and whatnot. I'll have to at least endeavor to persevere. Oh, good, the furnace turned off. Yeah, the video's over, the furnace turned off. Ha 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 ha. Well, you deserve it, frankly. You deserve whatever. People are just so obnoxious. Ugh. Yuck.